Hey everybody, Alex here. For this project, the idea is I want all of you to do something called workforce based learning. I want all of you to pretend to be kind of consultants in relation to a particular job or field. What I have are 10 generic questions you can ask a client. So if you are a consultant, you can ask a potential client these 10 really generic questions about something that you have been hired or possibly hired to consult on. To help give you an idea, I'm going to answer some of these questions for you. So the questions are: number one, can you describe your organization and role? Question two, what challenge or challenges have led you to seek the support? Question three, why is addressing the challenge needed now? Question four, what have you tried to solve the problem already, if anything? Question five, which key stakeholders are affected? Key stakeholders are the people who an organization is trying to positively affect, and key stakeholders are the ones most affected. Question six, what does a success look like to you? Question seven, what data do you have to support the project? Question eight, what constraints are um, need to be considered? So, what issues might get in the way that you need to think about right now? Question nine, are there risks or concerns that need to be anticipated? And question 10, how should we communicate updates or needs? So, in general, these questions would give you an idea on helping to start work on a project for a client. So, let me answer some of these questions. So, question one, can you describe your organization and your role? So, I am a college instructor at a community college level. We offer classes in communication in terms of public speaking and argumentation and interpersonal communication, things like that. My role is to be a faculty member and to teach college courses to students. Um, Most of the students are like young. We have traditional students who are fresh out of high school, but then we also have something called non traditional students. Maybe students returning to college, or they're coming from a different college, or they've been out for a while, or they've just been in college for a long time. Question: what challenge or challenges do you seek support on? So, as an instructor, a problem that I have is that textbooks are really expensive for students. Lots of study shows that sometimes students will not even take a class because if they know the textbook is too expensive, they'll drop the class or avoid the class for as long as possible or try to find other teachers who cover the class with textbooks that cost less money. So, a challenge that I'm facing as a teacher is that I know students are not signing up for certain classes because textbooks are too expensive. That's the challenge. So, question three, why is addressing the challenge needed now? I think that having cheaper textbooks are needed right now because colleges have, at least at some of the colleges I work at, we have enrollment issues. We have people, especially as of this year, there is inflation going on, there's shrinkflation. Things are getting more expensive. Um, the minimum wage hasn't really gone up. So essentially, things are getting more expensive, and students cannot afford textbooks. And if they cannot afford textbooks, then they think that college is not, that they cannot afford college. So we need to do something about right now because we need to encourage more people to sign up for college or sign up for more classes and to take more classes so that way they can get a degree or get a degree faster. Question four was, what have you tried to solve the problem? So I've tried using something called open educational resources. In my classes, I have assigned free textbooks that don't cost anything. But the problem with that is the free textbooks tend to not have any supplementals. So as a teacher, I have to make my own quiz questions, I have to make my own PowerPoints. The amount of work to use an open educational resource from a teacher's perspective is kind of difficult. It's good for the students because open educational resources, or OERs, are free, so students don't have to pay for anything. But a lot of teachers that I know do not use them because there's so much of a hassle to use them in the first place that they don't want to do it. So I have tried using OERs, but as a teacher, it's getting harder and harder for me to want to keep using them because I always have to come up with new content for them or for new additions. Question 5, which key stakeholders are affected? Teachers and students. Mostly, I think this affects teachers because my idea is I want faculty to use or to assign cheaper textbooks, and they actively do not because making students pay like $150 or $200 for like an access code to an ebook that has all the quizzes and everything is just easier for them. So I think the key stakeholders in this case are both teachers and students, but really more along teachers because I want teachers to want to assign a cheaper textbook. So what does a success look like to me? So question 6, what does success look like? I want a textbook for one of my communication studies classes that is relatively cheap, easy to read, and has supplemental materials in it. So I'm imagining like a $200 textbook that is less than $30 that has a lot of substantive content, but also has quiz banks and question banks and supplementals and slides all ready to go, and maybe some activities and everything like that. So a success to me looks like a textbook that is not from a major publisher that I can assign, that's maybe made by students who have a better understanding of what students need and what they like to read. Question 7, what data do you have to support the project? I currently don't really have any data other than the fact that, as an anecdote, I know faculty, I have coworkers who will make students pay over $100 for a textbook, and I don't want that to be a thing. Some of my students also in my classes will tend to complain about that for a variety of different classes, but all the data I have is anecdotal. I know students will actively tell me and have told me in class as discussions come up with their classmates that they straight up sometimes avoid classes where they know that they pay a lot of money for a textbook. So that's really the only data I have are anecdotes and just what people tell me. I know there's more research about that, but that's generally what I have. What constraints, question 8, what constraints need to be considered? I can't think of any. Since this is an assignment I want to give for my class, I guess the constraint would be that for the course material, not everybody would know a lot of information. So one is there is a knowledge gap between what the developer would create and what the student would understand. So the constraint would be, it might be a lot of information that people just don't know about. Question 9, are there risks or concerns to anticipate? Not that I can think of. I mean, the worst risk or concern is that, like, for this project, students wouldn't do anything or just be really lost on it. Because I essentially want students to, like, okay, help me make a textbook so I can show it to my colleagues, and then they might use the textbook in the future. So that's maybe one of the risks, is that people wouldn't want to work on this. Last question. Question 10, how should we communicate updates or needs? If I was talking to a publisher, I would have them email me at my faculty email. But if I'm doing this as a class project, I want students to message me via Canvas inbox. I want students to communicate with me through the official means that are outlined on my syllabus. So that's sort of me. That was my answers, or those were my answers to some generic interview questions. So if any of you want to work on this project, please on the course, let me know. And then you know how to reach out. I'll end things right here. Other than that, thank you for watching. I know it was a long video. I appreciate you getting to the end. And have a great day, everybody. See ya.